Okay, very good. Thank you.
So as you were saying, like the first chapter mainly, we saw like you gave an overview of like what the first chapter concentrates on how like doubt represents all the doubts Arjuna had on whether or not to fight. That's why the um, you kind of gave a brief or like a way to remember it, that the first chapter talks about doubt. And first we talked about the DOU parts, and for the D part we talked about how, or we discussed how like Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra represent like the first, I would say, like 10 to 12 verses, their conversation, and how Dhritarashtra was inquiring about what was going on the battlefield. And here you gave insight on, although like it's not like Kauravas are weak or anything, but still, like, what do they fall short of? Which, like, we discussed about IQ, EQ, and SQ over there. That although they are like probably good in the IQ level, they're not that great in EQ, or like the emotional and spiritual quotients. And then we moved on to talk about how uh, um, we also talked about like what are the enemies of growth, and how um, we tend to, or like what are the factors that limit a person's growth. And like we saw how not having enough time, or like getting too comfortable and too proud of what we have, would limit us. And also particularly, like I don't know if I gave a good overview, but then one thing that I can remember particularly from last class is how you talked about, although Arjuna is super skillful warrior and like a great archer, he was, due to his doubts, he was trembling, and his great bow, like he was putting that down, like which is peculiar for his character and like how he usually deals with stuff. So it shows how like fear and anxiety makes us weak, when otherwise we are like very good at doing whatever we do. So that I
Okay.
particularly remember from last class. But yeah.
Thank you. You did a fantastic job. Haribo. Thank you, Roshni. That was wonderful. Thank you for giving us a recap of that. Now, Roshni, would you like to give a recap next in our next session too for the next for the next half of the chapter? I'd like to give the same
So
person for the whole chapter. So like the next second half, which we'll discuss tomorrow. If you can help us recap that, maybe on tomorrow in Wednesday class.
okay, yeah, Wednesday I can do. Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So continuing from here, thank you, Roshni, for giving us an overview. So the verses 28 to 30 of this chapter discuss Arjuna's bewildered state. What does Arjuna speak? Arjuna says this. Yes, can you read this for us?
Yeah, sure.
Thank
So
you.
I am now unable to stand here any longer. I am forgetting myself and my mind is reeling. I see only causes of misfortune. O Krishna, killer of the Kesi demon, I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsmen in this battle, nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness.
Hmm. So this is verse number 30 and 31 of the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Here, Arjuna, he has come to the middle of the battlefield and seeing the situation all around him, seeing all his friends, relatives, all the people he grew up with, he feels a lot of strange feeling, strange emotion in his heart. Mostly, he's depressed, he's sorry. We will hear in a minute what kind of emotions he has, but he is in a turmoil and he's sharing that with Krishna. As Roshan is pointing out, that even the bow is sliding from his hand. And then he speaks this verse. Now it's interesting to note that in this war of Mahabharata, there were six generations which were participating. There was the Pandavas, their father level, which is the Dhritarashtra, you can say. He started like participating. Many of his uncles were participating. The Dhritarashtra's great uncle, Bhishma, they was participating. And Bhishma's great uncle, Bahilika, was participating. And then Pandava's sons and uh, were also participating, like Abhimanyu. So there are, in some one sense, six generations participating simultaneously. So you can imagine that how he was seeing this whole family, situated on the battlefield, and he knew that the battle won't really end until everybody's down on the ground. So he could foresee an upcoming upheaval in his own family. So Arjuna is at a point of, you can say, existential confusion. What he should do with his life, he's not sure. And as we discussed last time in our in-person meeting, that many times we have this existential confusion. When we have this confusion, we should seek guidance. Whom we should seek guidance from? We should seek guidance from somebody who knows us, who loves us, and who has the capacity to help us. We discussed this last week in our Wednesday class in person. So Arjuna at this point looks to Krishna. And after looking towards Krishna, he gives different reasons why he should not fight. And this is the turning point of the, you can say, the whole Gita. He's sad, he's unhappy, and now he is in that difficult situation looking to Krishna for help. So it's a turning point in his life. And he gives these arguments. What are the arguments? First, his argument is compassion, verses 27 to 28. Let's look those verses up. I'm going to share my web page. So we'll read these verses. Let's see. Let me share the screen. There you go. So first he shares some reasons based on compassion, which are given in the verses number 27 to 28. Okay. So Ayushman, I'm gonna have you go through multiple of these verses. Can you read verses 27 and 28?
Yeah. Uh,
Thank you.
when the son of Kunti, Arjun, saw all these different grades of friends and relatives, he became overwhelmed with compassion and spoke. Arjun said, "My dear Krishna, seeing my friends and relatives present before me in such fighting spirit, I feel the limbs of my body quivering and my mouth drying up."
Mm. So he's seeing all his friends and family members, and that's making him sad because he doesn't feel happy. Arjuna was so soft-hearted that even he would see even an enemy soldier, he would feel sad for them because he knew that they're going to die in the battlefield. So that's his first reason, compassion, that he is filled with tears at the upcoming death of these near and dear ones. Next reason is happiness, which is from verses 30 to 35. Okay, so we'll have yes, can you read this for us? Verses 30 to 35, these three sections.
Yep, sure. So I am now unable to stand here any longer. I am forgetting myself, and my mind is reeling. I see only causes of misfortune. O Krishna, killer of the Kasi demon. I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsmen in this battle, nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness. O Govinda, of what avail to us our kingdom, happiness, or even life itself, when all those for whom we may desire them are now arrayed on this battlefield? O Madhu Sudana, when teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, maternal uncles, fathers in law, grandsons, brothers in law, and other relatives are ready to give up their lives and properties and are standing before me, why should I wish to kill them, even though they might otherwise kill me? O maintainer of all living entities, I am not prepared to fight with them, even in exchange for the three worlds, let alone this earth. What pleasure will this grasp?
Yes, thank you. So in these verses, we're hearing how Arjuna is saying, "Hey, even if I win all this kingdom, who will I enjoy with?" It's like when we win something, like suppose we win an award, right? We call our friends, we call our parents, we call our family, "Hey, I won that award," and we celebrate with them. So Arjuna is saying, even if I win all this, whom will I enjoy this with? Because so many of my relatives will be dead in this war. So I don't see any happiness coming to me in fighting this war. That is the reason number two. Reason number three is social destruction, that how the society will be destroyed. So verses 37 to 43. Roshni, can you read this for us, please?
Uh, O Janardana, although these men, their hearts overtaken by greed, see no fault in killing one's family or quarreling with friends, why should we, who can see the crime in destroying a family, engage in these acts of sin? Uh,
Hmm.
should
Keep
I
going.
read until
Yeah,
40, Prabhuji?
until 42, all these
Okay.
verses.
With the destruction of the dynasty, the eternal family tradition is vanquished, and thus the rest of the family becomes involved in irreligion. When irreligion is prominent in the family, O Krishna, the women of the family become polluted, and from the degradation of womanhood, O descendant of Vrishni, comes unwanted progeny. An increase of unwanted population certainly causes hellish life both for the family and for those who destroy the family tradition. The ancestors of such corrupt families fall down because the performances for offering them food and water are entirely stopped. By the evil deeds of those who destroy the family tradition and thus give rise to unwanted children, all kinds of community projects and family welfare activities are devastated.
So up till now, what we hear the reasons which we heard from Arjuna, they were not very much relevant to us because when we are fighting a war, I mean an internal war or in our life, we're not really against our relatives or our family members. They are there, they're available. However, this section is very relevant for us because here in this section we're hearing Arjuna's reason for not fighting the war. He's saying if he fights a war, the society will be destroyed. How will it be destroyed? First, he says because by destroying all the men, the women will be unprotected. They won't have somebody to take care of them or to provide for them, and that would mean that there will be illicit relationships, and plus, it will also cause population or birth of children which are not really loved for, or they're being called as unwanted children. When children are born out of marriage where they don't have mother and father available, or they have been adopted, it's very rare to find that the child grows with that love and care. And when such a person grows up in a society, because he has not received so much love, he is mentally and physically in a very difficult situation, difficult place. So Arjuna is pointing to that. And then Arjuna is finally also saying that when you destroy all the elders, there is nobody to guide us, because the elders are in the family, they give us wisdom. Like I grew up uh, practically with the help of my mother and my grandmother, because we had like a joint family that I grew up in. I remember that growing up, that my both my mother and grandmother gave me so much love, so much care, and they always shared, especially my grandmother, used to share so much wisdom, how to live life, what things are important in life. Practically every day, she would tell me some spiritual stories. And hearing those stories, I was enlivened. And it set a goal for me in my life that I wanted to, she would tell me stories about sadhus and great saints of India. And about hearing about them, hearing about their character, I felt inspired and motivated in my life to go in that direction. Plus, I remember that sometimes, um, mm, you know, there will be fights between my father and mother, but my grandfather will step in and will stop the fight. So having elders creates, you can say, a balance in one's family. And Arjuna is saying that because such elders will be destroyed in this war, it would mean the society will grow up to be very much, you can say, uneducated, and such families will fall down because they won't really know how to perform the rituals. They won't really know how to work cohesively. And finally, Arjuna is saying that if there's no family tradition and there's tons of children which are not loved for, unwanted children, then no matter what kind of projects you have, no matter how much wealth you have, they will be all devastated. They won't be able to reach success. So when I was reading this section actually a few days ago, it occurred to me actually, if we look at this section of social destruction, we're actually seeing that in our society right now. um, Raise your hand, or actually you can unmute yourself if you can think of an example in your life where you're seeing this social destruction right now happening in our society. If you have seen it, you can just raise your hand or unmute yourself and tell if you want to share something on this, on destruction of this social structure of our society, the social fabric. Have you seen such destruction in society? If not, it's also fine. But if you have seen it, you can raise your hand, or there's a section called emotion, and you can know that you also agree with me on this point. before I move on to the next one?
I feel like
Roshni, you're muted.
sorry. So
Yeah.
I would agree with that, and also we can see that at different levels in the society, on like a more active and also like a passive way. On a more on a less critical note, I feel that generally like people have more cheating propensities, and like they feel that that's okay because yeah, for whatever reasons, like since nobody is there to correct them, and like I feel that generally people are more, yeah, I just generally feel people are having like like not that pure and kind at heart generally, on
Okay.
like a basic
Yes, that's a
level.
good point. That's a good point that people are not developing general moral qualities of charity, of living life simply. Because when you are wise or you're like old, and you have seen that how what are the real qualities which are needed for being happy and successful in life. And because there's a lack of elders in society, we don't receive that education and training on those qualities. That's a very good point, Roshni. I didn't think about it. Thank you. Anyone else want to share some examples or anything like that? Okay, never mind. So then, going forward, this was Arjun's third reason. The first was compassion, second, happiness, and third, social destruction. And the fourth reason Arjuna gives is sinful reactions. So for this, text number 44 and 45, I will again ask Yash to please unmute himself and read this for us. Verses 44 and 45.
Yes. Uh, Alas, how strange it is that we are preparing to commit greatly sinful acts. Driven by the desire to enjoy royal happiness, we are intent on killing our own kinsmen. Better for me if the sons of Dhritarashtra, weapons in hand, were to kill me unarmed and unresisting on the battlefield.
So he's so scared of sinful reactions, that if he commit some action which is not authorized by Shastra, by scripture, then by doing that would mean that he will incur a sin. So he's saying that although my elders had committed an aparadh, an offense by polluting, by disrobing or by insulting my wife and my family members, my brothers, but greater than that is a sinful reaction of killing them because they're my elders. I can't kill them. So this is Arjun's fourth reason that why he doesn't want to fight the war. Go back here. So this is Arjun's fourth reason why he doesn't want to fight the war. And it's also a turning point in his life. Seems like a good argument, isn't it? So Krishna will argue against all these throughout the Bhagavad Gita. It doesn't mean that Bhagavad Gita is supporting war and violence. Actually, no. Few years ago, in Russia, I'm not sure if I shared this or not. In Russia, the Orthodox Church they launched a campaign against Bhagavad Gita. They said Bhagavad Gita should be banned in the whole Russia. Why? Because it's a scripture which supports or which encourages religious violence. There's so much wars happening and so much fighting happening on the name of religion throughout the whole world, and we don't want that in our life. I mean, I grew up in India, and growing up in India, practically every year we'll hear about this bomb blast in different parts of the city. Like I was in Delhi, Delhi also had so many of those. It was very terrifying, very painful to hear about those different blasts happening because of religious strife being launched by our neighbor country, Pakistan. Again, there it's not so much because of nationality, but more so because those people are educated from very birth or given the propaganda that how the Hindus or the India is crushing the Muslims, and that's why we should fight it. This is jihad and all that. So, given that, is Gita also something similar? Is it promoting jihad? So when this thing happened in Russia, all around the world, there was a big uproar because Gita is not a book which is recommending that religious war. That is just a situation where the Gita was spoken. And as I said earlier in one of our sessions, that actually Gita is recommending us to apply these teachings in our inner level, where we have the war going in our heart, where we're trying to fight, you can say, our bad self, our weak self, a self which is full with a lot of bad qualities. So it's not the recommendation of the Gita to go for religious war. So Gita is not a book of violence. We have to also understand the situation in which this Gita was being spoken. As we said, shared last time, how the war how this war is being recommended by Krishna, because the war is happening to destroy or to remove Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana. Duryodhana, as you know, is a dirty fighter. He wouldn't even give 5 villages to the Pandavas to rule the kingdom. And he wanted to rule and create a situation where everybody would suffer and would engage in inhuman activities. So he was all for greed and mercilessly, charging the citizens and behaving with them in an inhuman manner. So, in order to create a society which is very peaceful, which is comfortable for spiritual growth, Krishna wanted Arjuna and the Pandavas to win the war and rule the kingdom. So the Gita was the last resort. Even Krishna, before the war happened, he actually went to the Kauravas and tried to create, uh, you know, ask for some kind of like a middle way. But Kauravas, Duryodhana said, I would not give even that much piece of land from which you can pass a needle. Why is that? Because Duryodhana knew that Pandavas were so righteous and had so many amazing qualities that if they had even one village to them or 5 villages to them, the citizens of his country will start migrating from his region to their region, because he knew that there was piety, there was good naturedness. Like all of us, why have we come to America? We have come to America because there's better opportunities here. There is, you can say, better resources here for growth. So similarly, the Kauravas were afraid that Pandavas are going to create a kingdom where people will have much more opportunities for growth, both material and spiritual, and they'll be dealt with in a fair manner. Their citizens will move to Pandavas, and they would not have a kingdom to rule. So the Kauravas and Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, they completely denied the opportunity, and that is why the war happened. But again, Gita is not a book for war. It's a book for much more deeper subject matter. It's a book for transformation. So it is not necessarily a book which is talking about non-violence. And there's, of course, there's always, there's a deep reason behind this morality in this war, and it's a last resort. So let's not take Gita as a book which recommends violence, but it recommends transformation inside us. So going back, recapping what we discussed in this chapter, we come to the end of the chapter. We discussed that in the first 12 verses is Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana who were explaining their own situation to their friends, and through their speaking, we're coming to realize how they are filled with so much cunning motives. Then we heard about verses 13 to 20. There were many ominous signs which showed that how Pandavas are going to win the war. In verses 21 to 27, we hear some uncertainty in the minds of Arjuna, and he asks Krishna to take his chariot in the middle of the battlefield. And in verses 28 to 30, we hear how he's bewildered, and towards the last, we hear his reasons why he doesn't want to fight the war. So that is practically the summary of chapter 1 of the Bhagavad Gita. Now, if you were to ask me, is there any one lesson which we can take from this chapter? Of course, we have so many lessons which we can take from chapter, but there's one lesson we can take from this chapter. It is this. What is this? So, Ayushman, can you read this for us? These two circles here, the left circle and the right circle.
Yeah. World teachers leave the situation. Gita teachers learn from the situation.
So this is the difference of this is the sutra of this chapter, that the Arjuna is in a difficult situation, and he is going to use that situation to learn more about life. Whenever we have difficulties, we often tend to ignore them. Whereas Gita says, embrace the difficulties, embrace the obstacles, and with the help of a guide, understand what is a lesson for you. So now we want to do a small breakout room, which means that we have 4 people here, okay, 5. So maybe we can make a group of 2 and a group of 3. Krishna, are you able to participate in this conversation, in this breakout room? Because he told me that he cannot. Let's see what he says. Nope. So Krishna only will be on just watching. So we'll make 2 groups of 2 and 3. Maybe Krishna can just participate, and I'll make the group. Assign. Okay. Okay, here you go. So I made the rooms and I will join the room one, and our questions are here. I'll share the questions with everybody in the chat. One second. I just wanted to share the question with everybody. Okay. Okay, I posted the question in the. There you go. I posted the question in the chat, in the WhatsApp chat. Okay, Ayushman, so let's discuss this. So first of all, the question is introduce ourselves and hobby. Well, what do you do for work? I guess we already know that. We can skip to it. Question: describe a time when you received the right guidance in life which led to you feeling happier.
Mm, I think I remember like during my undergrad final year, I was like kind of very much confused about uh, what career options I should take, like because I was interested in a wide variety of areas, like and diverse areas. Like unlike many of my friends who had a clear like preference, I was super confused about
Hmm.
all of my options. So I then met my professor basically, who was my advisor. So and he was like, gave me a really good, valuable advice was that, and the other thing that I had always in mind was like, if I let's say move to one area, then whatever things that I had done in let's say and in a different area, all those skill sets would go to waste, and I won't be able to utilize them to like uh in my future life basically. So that was the two basic like tussles that were going on in my mind in my final year. So then I
Hmm.
went to my advisor and like he told like he gave me really good advice. Like he said like things like right now you can only see at the moment like whatever has happened uh so far, but eventually like when you let's say go 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, whatever you have done, like all those different interests that you have pursued in these 4 years during your undergraduate, you will be able to utilize them, and then looking back at you will be able to connect those doubts that this happened with that you were able to do this because of this prior experience. They may not be directly utilized, but you can only connect the dots like after time has gone by.
Hmm.
You can't
Hmm.
you can't foresee what lies ahead in the future basically. So
Hmm.
that was one thing. Then the other thing was like he said you don't worry about like it's not a race that you have to you can take your time and like figure out, like you don't have to immediately uh like go with an option, and like with an option let's say which will close other options, so you should go with the option which keeps all your options open. If you go to an option which let's say closes out other options, then you may be regretful in the future, because only once you do something, like in college you only get a kind of a trailer, like okay you would have spent like small amount of time in a lot of areas. So unless you do something for a long period of time, you don't know whether you're genuinely interested in it, or it's because everything appears interesting at the beginning. So it's only when
Hmm.
you do it for a considerable amount of time will you be able to understand whether that's actually your true interest or not. So he said like you uh, keep go for the option which keeps all your options open, and also like take more time to figure it out. So yeah, these were the two things which really helped me.
Wow, it's pretty interesting
Yeah.
time in your life. Thank you for sharing that. If I think of it, describe a time didn't receive right guidance in life, and which led to you feeling happier. Um, and I could think of that. Um, there was a time when I was considering, being a monk. It also means that I spent a lot of time teaching. And a few years ago, I started considering, that of course I spend a lot of time teaching, but sometimes I also need to spend a lot of time, uh, you know, I also want to go deeper in myself because I can only share something which I have experienced myself. And if I don't have a lot of depth in my spiritual life, then I would not be able to share that with others. So one of my mentors suggested to me that I should start spending more and more time in places where such growth can happen quickly. With there are other seekers also who are working together for inner growth. So one thing is to go out and share. Other thing is to also go inside and share. And so this mentor of mine, she suggested to me that I should come for this 1 month trip or pilgrimage where there's a group of like 1,000 people who go on this pilgrimage in India, and she asked me that I should join for that pilgrimage. At first, I was hesitant because I don't like so much walking and so much traveling. I feel that spiritual growth will happen only when I'm at a place and it's quiet and it's focused. And although this pilgrimage meant that I've been many times in noisy areas, but she said I should definitely come for this because this pilgrimage involves people who are very serious, and in their company and in their association, you feel a lot of hope and you will feel a lot of growth. And I'm glad I did that because after that month-long pilgrimage, I felt like rejuvenated. I felt like I was reborn in my spiritual sense, in my spiritual life. So I eagerly look forward to that in future also. Okay, that was question
Okay,
number
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Next question is describe a situation where you experience uncertainty about a decision and how you resolve it.
Think I'll say like that was one that actually my experience back then was like it also answers the second question I feel, yeah, because I was kind of uncertain, and so the
That's
thing which
true.
I did was like I, in addition to like after I spoke with my advisors, like I followed his advice, and then during my first, let's say, 2 years of the job, I was like, after the job, I used to work from like, let's say, 9 to 6 or something, and after that, on weekends, I used to devote more time to like all other interests of mine, and
Mm,
this way I could, like, over a span of 2 years, I was able to figure out like that this is what I want to do. This is not what I would like to do very in a
mm,
very long time. So I gave myself 2 years. So like, and I did not like go into this rush, like unlike a lot of my friends were like that you have
mm,
to let's say let's say a lot of my friends like came to, or let's say their masters and all immediately, or
yeah.
yes, but so I didn't, or let's say they went for other career interests like this thing. But
Uh-huh.
uh, like in India nowadays, it's like doing a job is not the cool thing anymore. It's like either you have to have a startup or you have to go for like, in at least in my college, like that's the trend. Like either
Yeah,
you have to be in a cool startup, or you have to like go to the state, go to US for a master. Those are the only two things which are like considered
yeah,
cool. Like, yeah,
yeah.
but yeah, so I didn't fall. I'm happy that I didn't fall into that trap. So
Nice,
I got
nice,
to do this, yeah. And
cool,
it gave me more time, and I was able to understand. Like, yeah, so things got better with time. Yeah.
nice, nice. For myself, one time I was in uncertainty that a few years ago, uh, earlier I was a PhD student at University of Michigan, but I never finished my PhD. I only got master's, and then afterward I left the program. So a few years ago, I had an opportunity to continue my PhD because I had written this book called Big Bang and the Sages, and I was going back into the world of research and the scriptures, like something on the like on research on religion and science on that topic. And I remember a few years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, I got an opportunity, I got an offer from Michigan State University, and there was an opportunity from the University of Michigan also to do, like say, another PhD at school. And that time I was a little uncertain, so I asked one of my senior friends and other people. I took advice from a bunch of people, And at the end, I decided not to pursue that because it occurred to me that there's a point in life where PhD is helpful, but there's a point in life where institutions and the degrees are not really what you need. What you really want is knowledge, and I could see that I could pursue that path of knowledge instead of I don't have to necessarily go back to the institution. I can just pursue that otherwise too.
So what was like, which subject were you planning to pursue your PhD in?
It would be data science only, but it would be focused
Okay,
on again, something with Sanskrit and data science, linguistics and data science. Anyway, looks like our meetings is our other friends are
okay,
back, so let's go
okay.
back there. Close our room. Thank you everyone for this. And Kishan is saying something to us. Kishan is saying, do you plan to share recordings and slides in the group? I will share a summary sheet afterwards, Kishan, but you can work on it. He already left. Anyways. So I hope we had a great discussion there because me and Ayushman, we were going back and forth for a long time because there was so much to share. And next part of the slide here. So we did the breakout room, and now next thing is journaling. So what we heard, it's important that we think and meditate on this. So this is something which we can do at our personal time because our time is coming to a close. So we should think about this. In what ways do I personally resonate with Arjuna's dilemma? And how would a spiritual perspective benefit my life right now? I will share these questions in the chat also, so you can think and reflect on this in your free time. And there's another question. What do I need to do, or how do I need to be to get the most out of these meetings or the circles which we're having right now? So I will share this. Anybody has any final questions or comments they want to share on our today's discussion of the Bhagavad Gita, or any comments or reflections they want to share based on their breakout rooms?
I had a question, maybe out of the box question.
Sure.
So
Questions
I
are
just like,
questions are questions are very good because
yeah,
my teacher says if you have a question, you have a relationship. So I'm grateful for the question.
okay. I mean, it's kind of like a factual question, probably. So I just like wanted to know, is there a mention of Balram also in the Bhagavad Gita, or like, does he have a role also in Mahabharata? Like, was he also fighting along with the Pandavas or
Oh, very good
anyone?
question.
Like,
A very good question.
I mean, I
Uh,
haven't really read about him as a warrior in in like Mahabharata and all of that.
mhm.
So,
Thank you. So yes, Balram didn't fight in the war. Actually, before the start of the war, he, along with Krishna, tried to solve the war or tried to calm both the sides, but both the sides wanted to fight it. Now, Balaram, since one of his disciples is Duryodhana, he didn't want to be there and be on the opposite side to Krishna because he's Krishna's brother. So he was somehow tricked by Krishna to go on a pilgrimage. What happened? One time Balram was there in his area in Dwarka, and somehow he saw that one cow or died. He saw somewhere. So he came and told Krishna, Krishna, I saw this cow died. And when that happened, but Krishna said, that's the bad omen. If you see a cow dying, you're supposed to go to pilgrimage. So then it gave Krishna a reason to ask Balram to go on a pilgrimage. And by the time he came back from the pilgrimage, the whole Mahabharata war had finished. So that way, that's how Balram didn't participate in the war.
oh, okay, thank you.
You're welcome. More than these questions, this was like a philosophical question. I like that. I highly recommend that we meditate on the questions, which I will share later in the chat. You can do like a journaling ourselves, and I will also share a form to fill out for you, which has the summary of what we discussed today, and it will also have questions for us to reflect upon. So we will close here today, and maybe we can close here by chanting Mahamantra 3 times. We can all chant together. Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So thank you everyone for participation. So I'll see you guys tomorrow evening. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Thank you, Ashman.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Roshni. And thank you, Yash.